name's Brooke, and this is Maker's Workshop.
I have a secret. I started this project in the spring of 2019.
They were simpler times. I don't even know why I started and stopped this one so many different times. Presumably I got busy or something. I don't even remember though. It was a long time ago. So anyway, tell me down below in the comments if you have a project that's sitting shoved in the back of a closet somewhere that isn't that difficult or that challenging, but the fact that you've procrastinated it this long makes it really intimidating to pick back up, because I'd love to hear about it. It feels really nice to have this one finished, and I'm really happy with how it turned out and excited to share. Today, I'm making a laser cut wooden handbag. The process incorporates obviously laser cutting as well as some leather working and sewing. Let's get started. Instead of sketching this flat to start, I rolled up a piece of paper and sketched roughly where I needed each component to make the three-dimensional shape work. I'm using living hinges to give the wood enough bend to roll into the shape I want, with rectangular magnets positioned to hold the bag closed. And then I recreated my initial design in Adobe Illustrator. I'm using a living hinge pattern that I've used before and know works well on an 1/8 inch thick material and will bend nicely in the orientation I want. I went ahead and immediately cut my first version in 1/8 inch plywood on our Glowforge laser cutter. It was taking quite a bit of pressure to hold its shape, so the first change I made was widening the region with the living hinges for more flexibility. In this second iteration, I also added holes to later stitch in some accent fabric and engraved a recessed seat for one of the magnets instead of cutting it because it will be easier to glue later on that way. Version 2 was almost perfect, but I decided to lengthen the wood on the interior of the bag to give just a bit more structure before I cut it in my final piece of maple plywood. To close up the sides, I wanted to go with a sewn lining consisting of a main rectangle of fabric to line up easily with the shape of the wood, and pleated accordion-like side pieces that would nicely lay flat and also nicely extend out when the bag's opened. To give the concept a whirl, I drew it out with exact dimensions on craft paper. Here's the trick I used to make the accordion piece. I started with a rectangle identical in size to the opening at the side of the bag. Then I cut it out and folded it into quarters lengthwise. I cut all the way along each fold, leaving just enough paper to hold things together. And then I could uniformly splay out each strand and tape them down to a fresh section of craft paper to create a new shape that I can trace. That, when pleated, will fit perfectly into the side of the bag, but also extend out nicely. I cut out this first pattern and assembled it using painter's tape so I could test fit it into place. All things considered, really minor changes are needed for a first draft. I'm actually pretty happy with how this came out. I just want to make it a little bit shorter. When making patterns, I find starting fresh each time to be the easiest way to go. Also, I write out the dimensions on each side as I go, because then if I make changes to them, once the pattern is folded up in 3D, I can easily do the math and figure out what the new dimension is. Woohoo! 2 tries and it's done. The reason I use painter's tape is because this isn't actually the final pattern, because I still need to add a 1/4 inch seam allowance around everything, because I'm gonna need that when I am sewing this. Painter's tape makes it easy to disassemble the pieces and then rework them with the seam allowance added to each piece. And then my final lining pattern was done. Time to do it in fabric now. I I had some scrap denim that I thought could be a cool looking and really durable material to go with. I prepped each piece and dug out my sewing machine. I actually really love to sew, but admittedly, it's been a while since this machine has seen the light of day. In an exciting twist of events, it seems as though my machine is stuck in reverse. And I did a little Googling, and to cut to the chase, I think I'm just gonna try to do this in reverse because it doesn't seem like it would be that hard to do. Hopefully this isn't a mistake, but here we go! Here we go! I really should be using pins, but I don't have any pins here, so painter's tape. Always the answer. Between the fact that I was going backwards and the fact that denim stinks generally to sew, even on a good day, it was a pretty clumsy process to get through. As far as backwards sewing goes, is it my best craftsmanship on a sewing machine ever? Certainly not, but it's not my worst either. Wait, it decided to go forwards. How unexpected. I will say once the machine did finally decide to go forwards, I was able to get through it much more quickly. Maybe I should have just used like a normal lining material. Maybe that would have been easier. Perhaps predictably, denim was not the best choice for the first draft because denim's really thick and just generally kind of a pain in the neck to deal with. But it does look cool, so it does have that going for it. It's not bad. I made a lot of progress. Yeah, that's right. Positivity. I made a lot of progress. The good thing was that the next day when I went in with a relatively thinner upholstery fabric, instead I was able to get through it really easily. My machine was still switching between going forwards and backwards on me though, and also had a few stints of changing stitches entirely on me all on its own. It's a digital machine and I'm not really sure what the issue is, but for the time being I just pushed through it and it ended up being okay. The lining looked good, but as I was trimming the threads, I realized I didn't really like the print as much as I thought I would. So I dug through what random remnants of fabric I could find around the shop and found a few pieces from old Halloween costumes. This color's kind of tripped me up because I'm not usually a purple person and like, this is really purple. I just don't want it to look like a grape. You know what I'm saying? Would it look like a grape though? As I'm staring at it, I actually think that I really like it. So I'm just gonna make one out of this. And then I'm gonna make one out of the suede. And then I have that third one. I'm just gonna make a bajillion, because then I can really pick which one I like the best at the end. The next detail to tackle was the leather accents I'd put those holes in for. It was pretty easy to design this because I more or less could pull it right off of the original pattern. Leather laser cuts really well, however, it can scorch, so it's important to protect its surface with painter's tape or something similar before cutting. I'm using the Glowforge again for this, and every laser cut element for this handbag. It made quick work of this, and again, easily gets through it, but you'll notice that heavy scorching I was talking about in these clips. Luckily, because of the tape, it peels right off, leaving a pretty flawless finished product that also lines up perfectly. I thought up the idea of adding a living hinge bow as a fun detail. To do this, I found a free sewing pattern for a bow tie online and traced it in Adobe Illustrator. I then pulled in the same living hinge pattern from before and put it on the parts of the bow tie that I wanted flexible. It was simple
but worked out flawlessly with only one draft needed.
Today's assembly day, which is really exciting. So I have all these holes on the pieces that perfectly line up because they were laser cut, and I have this metallic thread, and I'm just gonna sew it together, right? I feel like it's just pretty straightforward.
I lined up my leather and picked out some gold thread to use for the stitching. I was able to hide my knots on the back side of the leather because it was conveniently sandwiched nicely against the wooden bag and out of sight. This particular thread looked great, but wasn't very easy to work with at all. I would liken it to trying to sew with straw. But with some patience, I got both sections of leather sewn on. I used CA glue to hold the bow together. When the two parts come into contact, I thought it would be a convenient way to go since it wasn't something that was going to be taking a lot of wear and tear. And then I cut a small piece of matching navy blue leather to wrap around its center.
One of the reasons why I really love working with digital files and CNC machines is because I don't need to feel unproductive spending a lot of time really honing in a design, because once the design is done, it's really easy to replicate and make a bajillion of. A bajillion. And I am going to do a little bit of that right now, because remember that lining that I did that looked like a grape? Well, I'm gonna use the grape lining and do a second handbag, except I'm gonna make the wood on that one a walnut plywood. I just think that'll go better. And maybe I'll do some crazy colors, I don't know. We're gonna do a second handbag. I don't really know what it's gonna look like, but it's gonna be grape and walnut. Okay. Thought I had walnut, but I don't, so we're gonna use cherry. Cherry.
With 2 bags ready to go, it was time for the final touches. I'm using a 2-part epoxy to secure the bar magnets in place. And let that sit overnight. To make the bow removable, I thought of the idea of making it a magnetic component as well, since there was already a magnet in the right position. The magnet hid nicely underneath the accent fabric for each wooden bow. It worked out perfectly. I thought these were really cute. To attach the lining, I used a few carefully placed stitches through the fabric and then also through the living hinges. I used thread that matched each wood type so it would blend in and not catch the eye. This was sort of a pain in the neck of a step, but it was necessary and wound up working okay and looking pretty nice. I bought coordinating purse chains as an option for each bag off Amazon. Incorporating tabs to clip these two in the design would be ideal in the long run, but for now, I just clipped them to themselves and tucked them under the flap of each bag. I love seeing how the same pattern can have such a different look and feel with 2 different color schemes.
Not only am I really happy to have this project done, I'm also really pleased with how it turned out. It came out even better than I was picturing. I don't know the next time I'm gonna go out somewhere, but when I do, I'll be ready. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to give it a thumbs up, click the subscribe button and the notification bell, and I will see you next time.